Welcome back to Virtual Reality Game Dev Ed. This is the 11th tutorial for our friend codenamed B. Okay, now this series is all about game structure. So I wanted to, our basic scene is pretty much set up here. So if you noticed, I've actually set up things a little bit differently. I'm going to go through all of that right now and explain why I've done all of this. First of all, the very first thing I did was created 3 empty game objects. One, my upper level is actually an empty game object that I put right around here. You put all of them in the mirror in the middle at first, put them all at 0, and then name it upper level, and then put in the ramp and all of your platforms there up in an empty game object called upper level, and then in an empty game object called lower level I went ahead and took these capsules in the walls out of the floor and put all of them in this empty game object. And you notice I also took all the lights out of their original empty game objects. These 2 spot poles, those are empty game objects as well. I took the lights out of them, so they're just sitting separate inside this empty game object that I named scene, and I went ahead and put all of these, everything in the scene level, on the scene part of my little game in another empty game object, so I can just select all of those at once very nicely. Now the reason I did this is because I want to show off something which is actually another script that comes with Unity. Okay, go ahead and select either your upper level and lower level once you've got those objects created. Now my lower level right now, we've got 4 capsules, my floor, and all these walls, right? And they're all separate objects right now, but they really don't need to load like that. They don't need to load separately. That's actually going to slow down our game a little bit. So what we want to do here is, while our lower level is selected, come up under component and up to mesh, and we want to go ahead and click this combine children, and it will attach this script to this, which is really unique, very cool script that literally combines all these children mesh into one object. And we want to do the same thing to our upper level. We want to go ahead and come under component and add a combine children script to that as well. Now what that has done, it is going to make our game run just a little bit smoother, a little bit nicer. Since we've got all these objects in here now, it's going to slow down our game a little bit. The more objects, the more mesh you have. It's actually the game is based on how many polygons there are. The more polygons, the more it has to load. A polygon is a flat shape, one of these flat shapes here. So now we've minimized that loading time as much as possible with this extra script here. But you don't want the lights in there. It doesn't work very well because those they're obviously not mesh. Anything that's mesh is a real, all the real objects are mesh. See, this has a cube mesh for our wall. Okay. So this is where we are. We have a really basic game. We've got our scene set up fairly nicely. We can move around pretty well. We've got kind of a cool little tail. We can shoot, and we've got some things to hide behind. So now the next thing we're going to do real quick before we move on in this series is go ahead and give ourselves a couple little enemies, and I'll show you how to set them up for yourself. Okay. So go ahead and minimize everything in the scene. And first thing we want to do is create another, go ahead and add a little capsule at this point. We're just going to scale it on the X and Z real quick. First, scale this to 0.5. Okay, and it doesn't need to be very high either, so go ahead and scale that to 0.5 too. Okay, now we want to move this over to where our spot lamp is. Kind of pull it down so the bottom of it's sticking out of the scene, because we just want to really have the top of it in view there. Okay, that's close enough. Okay, now with this selected, go ahead and add in, now let's component or game object, excuse me, let's add a sphere. And we want to move this over and put it about on top of the other one there. Okay, it's fine to have it inside of it. That's actually what we're going for. Okay. And that looks close enough to what I'm trying to do. Alright, now the last thing we need to do is, this is going to be a little turret. So we need to add a little cylinder for a gun barrel. So go ahead and add a cylinder. And this we want to rotate on the x-axis by 90 degrees. Okay, and then we want these to only be like 0.2 all the way around. Length, we'll leave the Z 0.5. Oh, and we want this to be 0.2 too. This one to be 0.5. Okay. Now go ahead and line that up with the front of your object. And check that out. There's our little base model for the turret. Okay. Now, we want to take this little capsule and rename this base, because that's the base of our little turret. The cylinder, we want to rename this barrel, or something like that. Rename them whatever you want. And go ahead and minimize everything in the scene view. And your sphere, we want to name this turret. Or something like that. Okay, now you want to take your barrel and attach it to the turret. We actually want to leave the base separate. Okay. But we want this actually to be a prefab, so we want to make more of them just like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on our prefabs folder and create a new prefab and call this turret. and then drag your base and the turret head into your turret. Replace anyway. Oh, Control Z. Take that back out. This base, we don't want just that. Attach your cylinder to the sphere. Okay, go ahead and delete that prefab back out. We're going to make a new one. We're going to do this a little bit differently. We want both of these to be selected at the same time. Move both of them into the prefab at the same time. So create your prefab, call it turret. Okay, now go ahead and create your little base for that. Game object, I'm going to go ahead and use capsule again. Scale it to 0.5 and okay, move it back to underneath our little turret head. Okay, now hold shift and select both of those, and now while both of these are selected, go ahead and drag on this move button. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and just create an empty game object to put those in real quick. So create an empty game object right here. We'll put it at we'll call this we'll call this one turret. And then take your sphere head and your capsule and put them in that turret separately. Okay. Rename the sphere to turret head. Cylinder to barrel. And the capsule to base. Okay, now take that turret, this new empty game object, and drag it into your prefab. And now we have the sphere head and the base in that prefab. And that is the end of my time for this tutorial, so I will come right back there. We'll see you all soon.